From the commander who stopped Rommel when Egypt looked dangerously close to falling, to the general who helped lead Britain's army from Normandy all the way into Germany, to the commander whose victories gave Britain hope when almost everything else was going wrong. These are the 5 best British generals of World War II, Part 2. And number 1 may be one of the most overlooked reasons Rommel never reached Cairo. Chapter 5. Brian Horrocks. Brian Horrocks entered the Second World War with an unusual amount of experience, but his reputation as a senior commander was built during the fighting in North Africa. In 1942, Horrocks took command of 13 Corps in the 8th Army. He served during the battles around El Alamein and later helped pursue Axis forces westward after the British victory. In 1943, he commanded 10 Corps during the fighting in Tunisia, but his career was nearly ended when a German aircraft strafed his position and wounded him badly. He spent more than a year recovering. Then, in August 1944, Horrocks returned to command 30 Corps in northwest Europe. His corps took part in the rapid Allied advance through France and Belgium, and later became the main ground force in Operation Market Garden. Airborne troops would capture a chain of bridges through the Netherlands, while Horrocks's 30 Corps raced north along a narrow corridor to reach them. The operation failed to secure the final bridge at Arnhem, and Horrocks could not overcome the delays, traffic, destroyed bridges, and strong German resistance fast enough. But Market Garden did not define his entire career. Horrocks later commanded 30 Corps during the Rhineland fighting and the final advance into Germany. But few senior British commanders combined battlefield experience, personal courage, and the ability to lead troops as effectively. And the next general carried an even heavier responsibility on D-Day itself. Chapter 4. John Crocker. Lieutenant General John Crocker commanded 1st Corps during the Normandy invasion. That put him in charge of one of the most important sectors of the entire Allied landing. His corps controlled British forces around Sword Beach and the eastern side of the Normandy bridgehead, where the Allies needed to protect the invasion from German counterattacks. On D-Day, forces under 1st Corps landed on Sword Beach, while the British 6th Airborne Division operated east of the Orne River. The British hoped to capture Caen quickly, but strong German resistance prevented that from happening on June 6th. The battle around Caen then became a long and costly struggle. Crocker's corps fought to hold and expand the eastern bridgehead while German armored formations were drawn into the area. One of the most dangerous moments came around the village of Breville, where German attacks threatened the positions linking the airborne troops to the main beachhead. Crocker later directed 1st Corps through more fighting around Caen and into the advance across northwest Europe. His name never became as famous as Montgomery's, partly because Corps commanders rarely received the same public attention as army commanders. But the responsibility placed on Crocker during the Normandy invasion says a great deal about how highly he was regarded. He had to coordinate infantry, armor, artillery, airborne forces, and naval support while facing experienced German formations in some of the hardest fighting of the campaign. He helped hold together a crucial part of the Allied bridgehead when failure could have threatened the entire invasion. And the next commander controlled an army that would fight from the beaches of Normandy to the heart of Germany. Chapter 3. Miles Dempsey. Miles Dempsey is one of the least famous British Army commanders of World War II, but his responsibilities were enormous. After serving in France in 1940 and later commanding 13th Corps in Sicily and Italy, Dempsey was chosen to command the British Second Army for the invasion of Normandy. That meant the British and Canadian forces landing in the eastern part of the Allied invasion area fought under his army-level command. Dempsey worked closely with Bernard Montgomery, but he was not simply carrying out instructions. During the difficult battle for Caen, Dempsey proposed the armored thrust that became Operation Goodwood. The attack began on July 18, 1944, after a massive Allied air bombardment. British armored divisions advanced several miles, but failed to achieve a complete breakthrough and suffered heavy tank losses. But the wider fighting around Caen forced Germany to keep powerful armored formations facing the British and Canadians, while American forces prepared their breakout farther west. Once the German front collapsed, Dempsey's Second Army moved quickly. British forces crossed the Seine, advanced through Belgium, and captured Brussels and Antwerp in early September. Then came Market Garden. The operation failed to secure a bridgehead across the Lower Rhine at Arnhem, making it one of the largest disappointments of the Northwest European campaign. But Dempsey's army continued fighting. In March 1945, Second Army took part in the massive Allied crossing of the Rhine. After the river was crossed, Dempsey's forces advanced rapidly across northern Germany. By the end of the war, the army he commanded had moved from Normandy deep into Germany. But commanding an army through almost the entire Northwest European campaign required enormous organizational skill. Few British commanders carried responsibility across so many difficult campaigns so successfully. Before we move to the final two, tell me in the comments, who do you think is the most underrated British general of World War II? And if you enjoy videos like this, subscribe for more rankings of the commanders who shaped military history. Because the next general gave Britain some of its first major victories when the country desperately needed them. Chapter 2. Archibald Wavell. In 1940, Britain was in a terrible position, and Italy had entered the war with large forces across North and East Africa. General Archibald Wavell was responsible for British forces across a huge region stretching from Egypt to East Africa, so he relied on mobility, deception, and carefully choosing where to strike. In December 1940, British forces launched Operation Compass against the Italian army in Egypt and Libya. What began as a limited operation became a spectacular victory. Under Wavell's overall command, Richard O'Connor's Western Desert Force drove hundreds of miles west, destroyed the Italian 10th Army, and captured around 130,000 prisoners. At roughly the same time, forces under Wavell's wider command attacked Italy's empire in East Africa. British, Indian, African, and Commonwealth troops defeated Italian forces in Eritrea and Ethiopia, helping restore Emperor Haile Selassie. These victories mattered far beyond the territory captured. At a time when Britain had suffered a long series of defeats, Wavell proved that Axis armies could be beaten. But his situation changed quickly. Churchill ordered forces diverted to Greece in 1941. Wavell opposed weakening the North African front, but he carried out the decision. When Rommel and the Africa Corps arrived, the weakened British position was pushed back. Wavell later failed in attempts to relieve Tobruk, and Churchill replaced him with Claude Auchinleck. His later command in Asia also included major disasters as Japanese forces captured Malaya, Singapore, and much of Burma. So, Wavell's record was not perfect. But his early victories came when Britain was under extraordinary pressure, and resources were stretched across several theaters. Even Rommel respected him enough to carry a copy of Wavell's book on generalship during the Desert War. Wavell gave Britain victories when it badly needed proof that victory was still possible. But the man who replaced him would soon face Rommel at the most dangerous moment of the entire desert campaign. Chapter 1. Claude Auchinleck took over Middle East Command in July 1941. Rommel had pushed British forces back, Tobruk was surrounded, and Churchill wanted an offensive as quickly as possible. Auchinleck resisted pressure to attack before he believed the army was ready. In November 1941, he launched Operation Crusader. The fighting was confused and costly, and the British suffered serious armored losses. But the operation eventually relieved Tobruk and forced Rommel to retreat west toward El Agheila. In 1942, Rommel attacked again. British forces suffered a major defeat at Gazala, and Tobruk fell in June. The situation became critical. Rommel drove into Egypt, and the road toward Alexandria and Cairo appeared dangerously exposed. Auchinleck made a dramatic decision. He removed Neil Ritchie from command of the 8th Army and took personal command himself. Instead of trying to hold farther west, he concentrated the army around El Alamein. where the battlefield narrowed between the Mediterranean Sea and the Qattara Depression. In July 1942, the First Battle of El Alamein stopped Rommel's advance. The Axis forces could not break through toward Alexandria and Cairo. That achievement is sometimes overshadowed by Montgomery's more famous victory at the Second Battle of El Alamein several months later. But Auchinleck had stopped Rommel first. Churchill still wanted a rapid counteroffensive. Auchinleck believed the Eighth Army needed more time to rebuild before attacking. The disagreement cost him his command. In August 1942, Churchill replaced him with Harold Alexander, while Bernard Montgomery took command of the Eighth Army. Auchinleck later became Commander-in-Chief, India. There, his contribution was less dramatic, but extremely important. He helped provide the manpower, training, supplies, and logistical support required for the later Allied victories in Burma. Auchinleck had real failures, especially Gazala and the loss of Tobruk. But his best moments came when the situation looked close to disaster. He relieved Tobruk in 1941. Then, when Rommel returned stronger in 1942, he stopped the Axis advance at El Alamein. That is why he takes number 1 in Part 2. Horrocks brought energy and experience to Corps' command. Crocker helped secure a crucial part of the Normandy bridgehead. Dempsey led the Second Army from Normandy into Germany. Wavell delivered some of Britain's first great victories of the war. And Auchinleck stopped Rommel when Egypt itself seemed threatened. Just like Part 1, there is no completely objective answer. So who did we miss? Let us know which British general deserves to be in Part 3. And if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more stories about the commanders, battles, and decisions that shaped World War II.